Welcome, everybody. This is our Love Month guide for the Kirk Student Ministry. That's right, we have a Love Month. It is our first ever theme month, and we are so excited to walk you through what we have. All right, let's jump right in. We have stuff for the parents. And for you parents, this is the first time ever we're really taking a month and at least equalizing how much we have going on for your student as well for you. We have our podcast, which we hope you engage in. We already have a podcast up and running, and this is the same podcast, but instead of a once a month thing, we will release an episode once a week. And we're doing that because there's a lot to talk about in the month of February. There's a lot to talk about when you have a love month. And so we're going to hit four main topics. We'll talk about biblical relationships. What does that look like? What is that supposed to look like? And we'll kind of start with that. And we'll spiral down into a lot of the hot topics of social media, the pitfalls there, and the theology of singleness, both affirming singleness, but also talking about the heartbreak of it. And then lastly, sexuality. What do we do with sexual identity, the big topic of today? So we hope you tune in every Tuesday or any time after that. Just download our podcast. It'll be up and running here in February every week. Every Tuesday, you'll see it posted on Spotify, iTunes, or the Google Play Store. And we really hope you listen to those podcasts, because it'll actually be a part of our Hawks and Hornets conference. That's right. I don't know if you knew this. We're putting on a conference. It's pretty cool. We're not trying to make anything big of it, but it is about a big topic, which is about the talk. We know we work with teenagers. The talk should have already happened. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Either way, we want to recognize that the talk doesn't stop. The conversation that is included in the regular talk continues on, and actually it gets harder, which is why we call it Hawks and Hornets, because hawks are much more vicious and hornets are much more vicious than birds and bees. So naturally, we are calling it Hawks and Hornets because it's harder conversations and more difficult, and it's harder to pin down. Anyways, I'm trailing off. We have a conference called Hawks and Hornets, where it is a conference for you parents to continue the conversation of the talk. And it'll look unique in the sense that our keynote speakers are actually those that are recording the podcast with us. And so we're bringing in experts to talk about these topics in our podcast and hoping that you listen in your leisure. So think of it as a month-long conference where you have as much time as you need in a month to listen to the keynote speakers, so that when you do come in for the conference, you're ready to talk about those things. If you're not able to come to or listen to the podcast, or you're just like, podcasts aren't my jam, that's okay. We will still help facilitate conversation whether or not you were able to listen to the podcast or not. We just want you to come in as prepared as you want to be for this conference. So the first part will be breakout sessions where we will talk about the things in the podcast, the topics in the podcast, where we will provide information or sum up what was said in the podcast while facilitating conversations on those topics. And then the second part of the conference is, what do we do with that information? What do we do with these conversations? How do we go out and use those things? So we'll have a keynote speaker come in who will address how to help your teen see the gospel through all crises of relationship. And we really want to zero in and focus in on that, because we believe that there's only one way to do that. We'll get to that later. All right, and lastly, parents, we actually have a moms and a dads event. You moms have already done this once, and I heard it was awesome. And so, of course, the male leaders are like, we got to do this with the dads. And so we're going to do another moms event. We're going to do our first dads event. And it's really just a time for us to come and be with y'all as parents and really encourage you as the most vital and influential person in your teen's life. I know it's hard to hear, and I know it doesn't feel that way right now, but the reality is, in the end, you are the most vital and influential person outside of Jesus in your child's life. And so we want to encourage you in that and come alongside you in that and just support you and how you're already loving your kid. And so that event is for y'all. We will get more details to y'all about that later. All right, parents, this is what we got for you. We're really excited that we have the opportunity to take time with y'all and focus in on what you need and what you're asking. And maybe you haven't stated you needed this, but we're coming in and inserting ourselves into y'all's lives and saying like, hey, this is at least worth talking about. All right, students or parents, and you want to relay this to your students. Who knows if the students will actually listen to this? I don't know. But there's information on here, so somebody's listening. Maybe I'm listening because I'm recording it. But all right, students, we've got 2 ways for you to get the most out of Love Month. And our first way for y'all to get plugged in is our D group date night. We haven't done this in a while, but they're super fun. We will break off into gender/age appropriate groups and D groups, and we will go do a fun event. And with this being our Love Month, we'll go do a fun event and we'll have a focused conversation on pursuing biblical relationships without thinking about dating. Like, how are we supposed to actually pursue each other as people? How is a man supposed to pursue a woman without the intention of dating them? We'll have a time to talk about dating, but for this topic, we're talking about what biblical relationships look like for teenagers and what does it look like for them. And so we'll do the fun event. We'll have a conversation. That'll be kind of the kickoff to our talking series, which I'll talk about in a minute. But for middle school, it'll be February 10th, which is a Sunday. And our 6th grade boys and our 6th grade girls will be one group. And then our 7th and 8th grade boys and our 7th and 8th grade girls will be another group. And they'll go do 2 separate things. Have those conversations and have that fun event together. Now for our high school, it'll be February 20th, which is a Wednesday, and it'll be all high school grades of boys and girls will go together as one unit. So look forward to these. They're a lot of fun. We hope we have a good turnout for them. It is so exciting. All right, and second, students, we have our SNF talking series, Biblical Relevance on Relevant Topics. What do we do with biblical relationships? What does Scripture say about relationships in general? We'll start that on our D group date night, and we'll continue on through a couple of other talks that we have throughout the month of February. And then what do we do with social media? What is it doing to our relationships? And then dating. What do we do with it? I know everybody's got a question about dating. We'll get down to the root of the matter of dating. What does Scripture say about it? And so there is much, much more to be said about these talking series, but we want you to come and listen to them, be a part of SNF so that you can get the most out of our Love Month and most out of those topics. All right, last thing we want you, at least parents, to know about is all of this really is leading up to our Hawks and Hornets conference. And so we want you to come in as prepared and as ready to go as possible. All of this really is leading up to our Hawks and Hornets conference, which coincidentally, maybe not so coincidentally, is right before spring break. And so we're going to have these hard conversations right before we head off into the most culturally risque time of life for a teenager. Spring break, everybody has, at least heard of MTV Spring Break and other cultural spring break events and senior trips and all those things where a lot of this kind of bubbles up and surfaces out in a teen's life. I'm not saying your teen does, but culturally speaking, that's when things just kind of hit the nail on the head. And so we want to have this conversation prior to spring break, and we want to have it on the tail end of our Love Month because we believe that the talk does not stop. That's right. The specific talk you were supposed to have that I fear as a dad ever having with my kid does not stop. It's not a one-time thing. It is an ongoing conversation. And the Birds and the Bees conference we had in the fall out of the children's ministry even stated that. It's not a one-down, sit-down scenario. It's an ongoing conversation that you have with your kid. And we, as the student ministry, want to say it also doesn't stop at the end of elementary school. It actually gets more complicated. We want to continue that conversation with y'all as parents and help provide resources, not because we're experts, but because we want to support and encourage y'all as parents on how to love your teen through these issues. The conference will be Wednesday, March 6th, 6 to 8 p.m. We will spend half the time doing hot topic discussions based off the podcast that we put on, and the other half of the time we'll have a keynote come in and apply the gospel? What is the gospel application to all these topics? And what do I do with all this? Lastly, we want everybody to know that all are welcome. All are welcome to this conference who want to know how to love teens well through the difficulties of broken relationships. If you want to know more about what that means, we hope that you come to the conference. It is so important. It might be the most important thing a teenager has to grasp as they're in their formative years of being an adolescent, of being a teenager, is how to handle the difficulties of a broken relationship. And there's only one way to do that. And that one way we will talk about at the conference. All right, that's it. That's all we got. It's a huge month for us. We are really zeroing in on love. We're really zeroing in and it being as intentional as we can as a student ministry in 1 month. So we hope that you come for this. If you want to navigate the Love Month Guide by yourself, we will attach the link so you can just click on it and you can just navigate it and never listen to my voice again on this. And we'll put it on the website. So we'll provide a link for that as well. All right. If you have any questions, please let us know. This is our Love Month Guide in the Kirk Student Ministry. Peace. Enjoy.